Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the first video of what's going to be many of Elsie's project. I am completely rebuilding this 79 Trans Am in honor of my mother who passed away in 79. I bought this car for about $2,200. It has a Chevy 350 in it because apparently the original 403 that was in it, a previous owner took it out for God knows whatever reason. The guy was rebuilding this thing to use it as a track car. I have since completely rebuilt the front end. I'm hoping you can see all that on both sides. Please disregard the battery. I actually had to take that off my RV trailer to be able to start the car because the other battery that was in it was finally shot. All I know is this thing's a 350. It's got Edelbrock heads. It's got an Edelbrock carb. 14 or 1649 or something, or 1405 maybe. It is a 4-barrel. It does need some serious love. As you can tell, there is no fuel filter on the line coming up out of the lower one, mainly because I guess I'm thinking that's a filter down there. It has been a long time since I've worked on cars. Anyway, today's project is replacement of the oil sending unit because the guy that I bought it from had an aftermarket gauge in it, again because he was going to be racing it, then just dropped the whole project altogether. So this piece right here, which I don't want to get too close on you, is the original, or the unit that they put in order to get to the gauge, and I'll show you why we're replacing it. Please disregard the interior. I've completely torn it apart. As you can see, all the kitty litter all over the inside here. What happened was, with the aftermarket oil gauge, which is right here, we'll come around, and I hope you can see this, but it's got a nice big cut in it right there. So whenever I started the engine, it would start pumping oil through it, and of course it came out all over the floor, and since the floorboards are rusted out, wound up all over the ground. So we're going to alleviate that problem by replacing the sending unit and trying to go back to the original gauge cluster. There are plenty of videos out there on, especially from F-Body Warehouse, and if any of those guys are going to be watching this, I want to thank them for those videos, because those are really going to come in handy for me later on down the road. Anyway, taking, let's see if we can get in here. I don't know how well you can see this, but there's the sending unit on this 350 right here. So this piece, like the first one I showed you, this one here, all this did was just thread right into there. And then the little copper line with the compression nut on it went in there, and you thread it down on the compression nut. Now the compression nut is actually a 10 millimeter, and the piece there was an 11 millimeter, which I was able to get at with a ratcheting wrench. So now that all that is out, here's the new one. So it's going back to the gauge cluster for the light. Now, when you're putting this back in, what I was told was just use Teflon tape on here, because the threads are actually tapered. So the more you tighten it down, the tighter it's going to get. If anybody has any questions, I got it from Napa. Let's see if we can get your part number here. There we go. Part number OP6619SB. And yeah, sorry guys, but it is made in Mexico. There are higher end ones out there, and like I said, I'm not even sure I'm keeping this engine. I may be trying to get a 400 or a 403 to put back in it, which is the original engine to this car. The inside of the car does show that it has AC, but as you can very well tell, there are no AC ports or box on this car. So either they replace that panel when they drop this engine in it, or they just completely deleted it altogether, or that car never actually came with it and they put an aftermarket thing in. Anyway, okay, putting the new one in, like I said, take a little bit of Teflon tape, wrap it around here, which, let's see if we can get to this. And I'll apologize now for my ugly mug if it shows up in the videos. Wrap it in nice and tight. Give it a little wrap around to get it into the threads. And we'll come back around here. Like I said, I'm doing this one-handed, so I'm hoping... Oops, sorry about that. Now, according to everything that I've seen on the forums, and alright, that's about hand tight, so now we're going to have to get something in there to crank it down on it. The brown wire coming out of the wiring harness, and I don't know, I really don't believe this is the original wiring harness to this car. I think this guy ran all of his own wires. So I'm probably going to have to replace the entire wiring harness while I'm at it. The brown wire is what attaches to that to get it back to original, which would be the oil light on the gauge cluster. So you would take a female connection, put that on the end of the brown wire, and then plug that directly into the sending unit itself. And hopefully you can see all this. So that's that, guys. I will create another video later on down the road when I do finally figure out or trace that wire or run a whole new wire, whatever the case may be, because like I said, I got to work out the whole situation with the wiring harness. So once I get all that worked out, there'll be another video coming down the road. But now you know, on a Chevy 350 where the oil sending unit is, it is basically right behind the distributor. On the 350s there were a few different spots where this thing could wind up. So just take a look for it. Again, if it has the copper wire, you're just looking for the copper wire. If not, you're looking for a brown wire. And that's pretty much about it, guys. If anybody's wondering what's actually on this thing, the head on it, or the intake, is a Torquer 2, is what's on this thing now. Now, I really don't know exactly how much this car puts out because I have not had a chance to really run this thing. There was originally, when I got it, there was a Hearst 2 shifter in it, or Promatic 2 shifter in it, and I'm trying to go back to the original shifter. If that doesn't work, then because I want to bring the car back to original as much as possible. If that doesn't work, then I'll go back to the Promatic 2, and that'll be the end of that. But as you can well see, I've got my work cut out for me. These are original Trans Am wheels. There's no center caps. There's plenty of body work that needs to be done. As you can tell, the fender wells are missing, and that's because I took them out to redo those as well when I did the front end. I just haven't gotten back to that yet. Got to replace both door handles because they're just completely hosed. Everything back here needs to be completely redone. I'll have the car completely repainted back to the original Starlight Black. Right now the trunk is full of molding and everything else, so that's pretty much about it. Everything else is pulled out of that. Alright, guys, well, I hope that that helps. This will be the first video of many, so stand by for more.